one of my favorite parts about that morning was we had pretty much made this determination of the power of the and, right? The tool.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever there's always two things are happening at the same time, all the time.
Duality.
You are
always.
having gratitude, and at the same time, whether you're aware of it or not, you have frustrations.
100%. If I'm frustrated that this podcast is not as good as it could be, I can then express that to the production team. I can express that to you. I can express that to myself. And I can say, let's get better. And all innovation comes from frustration.
Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today, for episode number 153, one powerful tool that's changed our relationship. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and 54 others. We work with, at this point, over 66 podcasters. If you include group coaching, we just filled with 12 people. So 66 podcasters. More than that if you do the math properly. But if you want to start, grow, scale, or monetize a podcast, Kevin and I have been in this game for 8 years. We've made every mistake under the sun, and we know how to help you accelerate the process. You're not going to skip steps, but we know how to help you. And we can produce your show, YouTube, audio, all of the above. Sweetheart, before we jump into this episode, I want to give you the floor. Ladies first. What is your intention?
My intention for our listeners is to leverage the power of the and in a very specific way that you and I have used, and it has changed our world. And we know any relationship that is growth oriented, using this tool and deploying it in your relationship is going to help tremendously, because what's coming up in your relationship that you might not be aware of is the opposite of this tool, not leveraging it. And that is kind of drawing little sneaky wedges without you even realizing it. So having our listeners take the tool, see if they can apply it, and get rid of those wedges.
Back in October, you and I had our 5-year anniversary of when I asked you to be with me. We're not going to tell that story here, since we already told that. And if anyone's curious about, if anyone's curious about that story, I believe shared that on episode 1. Our love story is the title of episode 1. However, for our anniversary, Emilia got me my favorite gift I've ever gotten. Asterisk next to that. So it was.
So it was.
You don't have to laugh off the mic, by the way, because I love it.
That's funny.
I want the audience to hear.
Oh, God. My full belly laugh.
Yeah, your full belly laughs. Unless it's going to hurt their ears, in which case it's probably good. So this was my favorite gift I had ever gotten. It still is.
Womp, womp, womp.
So it's a projector. I've always wanted a home theater, and we live in a condo that has cathedral ceilings, and it is amazing. Used it last night. This thing is majestic. I mean, if I could sell you this thing is great. This thing's the best. And somehow the acoustics of this bad boy make it sound like you're in a theater. So you know how you walk into a cinema and there's the projector behind you, like up in the booth or whatever, and there's surround sound speakers, and then in front of you is like a big, huge screen. Well, we've basically created that in our condo, but a smaller version. But the acoustics...
Dolby Digital.
Yeah, there you go.
I had to make sure that was included.
You have to make sure it has...
Your girl knows her surround sound. Your girl knows how to design the life.
Nice. So this thing is majestic. No. So we have I put up a shelf up. I'm trying to describe this. And it's essentially the home theater experience.
Yes.
And somehow the technology makes it sound like it's surround sound. And I think also the condo has great acoustics in general.
It does. Yeah.
And so it's just awesome. Now, here's the deal. That's the beginning of the story. That's awesome. That was the awesome part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the shitty part of the story. I'm kidding. But here's the worst part of the story. Emilia doesn't like when things look like shit in our house.
Yeah.
And I totally understand why.
Yeah.
Because she's made it beautiful here.
Yeah.
We have over 100 types of plants.
different species
Species of plants in our home.
It needs to look like an oasis.
And I take care of the fake ones.
Mm-hmm.
And she
And I
takes
take
care of the
alive
real
ones.
the alive ones. No, but it's wonderful. We take care of them. They take care of us.
Yeah.
And she put a huge plant next to my Dolby Digital surround sound projector,
Mm-hmm.
which I loved. No, so I came downstairs one day after a long day, and I said, "Sweetheart, we have a core value in conflict." And I was being playful, obviously. And I said, "You put a plant that has hurt my acoustics of the projector, which my childhood dream has been squashed." Obviously, I'm being exaggerating and all that. But continue. All of a sudden, the projector just stops working. It does this blinky blink thing. I came downstairs one time, and I saw it doing this weird liquid thing, almost like picture an eclipse, but like falling into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what the fuck is going on? Because this projector isn't even on.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then for the next couple nights, it just didn't work. It kept shutting on and off in between movies.
It's
or whatever
practically
we're doing.
doomsday for Alan.
Yeah.
Because that's like his one thing that he like. When I say like loves, and if you've been listening to our podcast, it is understated. I can't say that. It's like the one thing he looks forward to every single day. It's like me and nature. I like can't have it not there.
So every morning, you can pick a new nature scene that you can put up on the projector. I do my mobility on it. You can learn on it.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want with this projector.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm being playful.
Pretty
but
much.
Ultimately, it went from the best gift I'd ever gotten to what the hell is happening. And I think, maybe we could have gotten a better one. And so I started talking to Emilia about this, and all of a sudden I had this like mini list of things that bother me about the projector. So one is the acoustics with the plant. It's not very good anymore. Number 2, there seems to be this like dent in the side of this thing. Number 3, it was refurbished. Number 4, it's what I would consider a makeshift off-brand company, tech company, and I come from a big tech background. So for me, not a huge fan of like companies need to prove themselves, in my opinion, before I use their products and services. Like this is not an Apple, right? And so all of a sudden, Emilia's like, wait a minute, what happened? How did we go from this is the best gift I've ever gotten? It is still. Which is actually quite sad.
I know.
It's so sad. However, these things that I had suppressed about the projector all came out at once. And she's like, I thought this was the best gift ever. So we came up with this powerful tool where from now on, when you express a gratitude, you also need to express a frustration, because I had only been expressing how grateful I was. How many times have I, since you got this, since our anniversary, how many times have I said, thank you so much?
It's been like vehement gratitudes. And I want to tell the other side of the story too, which is when those frustrations were coming out of you. Not only did I say what you just mentioned, but I was also wondering, because in that moment, it was like, okay, wait a second. So we've had this thing for like 2.5 months now, and it's been like totally endorsed with your gratitude. So number 1, folly on me for not thinking that anything is frustrating you, because that's just totally unrealistic, right? Talk about the halo effect, only seeing the good things and only wanting to see the good things. Confirmation bias at its finest. So like folly on me, full jokes on me, but also with that, you bring up all the frustrations at once. That's like, whoa, okay, reorienting my entire last 2 months. So you've been managing those frustrations and you've not been bringing them up. And so for me, I had an emotional experience that was like, oh my goodness, what space did I not create in our relationship where those parts of you felt psychologically safe to share those frustrations? And as a partner, I aspire to be a partner that creates a very psychologically safe space within our relationship, that like all parts can be expressed, the frustrations, the what pisses you off, the anger, like all the emotions. And so when I heard all those, the list of the frustrations, I was like, holy crap, like I feel so bad that in any way, shape, or form, if I contributed to that suppression, I want to make sure that we understand what happened there, because I want to correct that, because I know the value of frustrations. And for anyone who has a growth mindset and understands that frustrations plus a growth mindset turn into fascinations, turn into a breakthrough, turn into innovation, turn into a solution that you're not thinking of right now because you have that creativity spark. Like that's what I want in our relationship. So it's I know so many couples that just express either all the frustration or just express all the gratitude. And when both happen or both are presented, it can be, if you've held out only one for so long, it can just be like such an emotional flooding experience for whatever reason. And I think that that's a huge opportunity that was where we put on the table. It's like, oh, okay, it's totally fine for you to have these frustrations. And you and I had a really interesting morning, like exploring that nuanced world where now we have not only your gratitudes on the table, but also the frustrations.
Well, the first thing to understand here is this is not a real problem. I really want to take us out and what are the reasons underneath why I didn't express it? Number one, I am mostly grateful. 95% gratitude. I mean, this is what I've always wanted. This is awesome. I have a home theater. What do I have to complain about? Let's be real. Even I'm exaggerating. Even with the plant, yeah, the acoustics are worse, but it's not that big a deal. So I talked to Emilia about this. 0 to 10, everything's a spectrum. If you listen to the Conscious Couples podcast, we use 0 to 10 all the time. It's so useful. It's a mental framework. So these frustrations with this projector were only 2s and 3s. And so why would I don't want to be someone who complains. I had an ex who would complain a lot about little shit that doesn't actually matter. And it made me feel like she's just not a very grateful person. And in some ways, I don't think she was that great of a person. But I don't want to ever lose perspective. Like there are bigger problems in the world than whether or not my projector has optimal sound. Like deeply. Seriously, it's not an actual problem. And I know that. I know that. That said, little Alan's dream was to have a movie theater. And there are things getting in the way of said movie theater, like this knockoff brand that seems to not work randomly. And so see how funny it is? Because it's like, yeah, that is annoying, but it's not a real problem. So I'm holding that duality. So if you're an adult and you're listening to this podcast, act like an adult. Be a professional. You don't need to make a mountain out of every molehill. However, if you do want to improve your life and the quality of your life and the quality of your relationship and the quality of yourself, you're going to have to point out the things. Because what is frustration? Frustration, I think, comes when there's a barrier to something we want, a need not being met or a desire not being met. So my desire is to have a home theater and have the best experience ever, and to be able to come and know that if we're having date night, movie night, where we're going to watch something amazing, we're going to have dinner and have certainty that the projector's actually going to work.
Right.
And we're going to be able to actually hear it without me turning it all the way up and then down. Because for some reason, every fucking movie has the action scenes at level 12, and then the talking scenes are like, me, 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 oh, me, 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 oh, me, me. It's like, oh my God, and it's, I need to get a hearing aid to hear these movies. Hopefully that's not the case with this podcast. But anyways, I'm joking.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah. What?
I'm just reminiscing on that morning. And one of my favorite parts about that morning was we had pretty much made this determination of the power of the and, right? The tool.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever there's always two things are happening at the same time all the time.
Duality.
You are
always
having gratitude, and at the same time, whether you're aware of it or not, you have frustrations.
100%.
And what we got into was the fact that your entire life in your past relationships, you've had to suppress all of the frustrations because of when you bring up a frustration, most people, what we talked about, most people will personalize your frustration.
Yeah, and they feel inadequate.
And put it on their back and might put on the responsibility hat of like, oh my goodness, I need to take care of that frustration
the opposite,
right now.
It's a you problem. And they'll consider you a complainer.
Yes.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, love, but a lot of people complain just to complain. I
Can't
never
even imagine that.
Well, that's exact. You have such a growth mindset.
And I have high self-belief because
exactly.
if I complain about anything, it's not a complaint. It's
only
me working to a solution.
100%.
Bonnie here. I just wanted to share my experience with group coaching and some of the things that I got out of it. So going into group coaching, I was not tracking any habits at all. And I had sort of jumped on board habit tracking here and there, knowing it was a good idea, but not sort of ever succeeding with it. And so now some of them have become habits. I'm happy to say I wake up, I have a glass of water without even thinking about it anymore. So now I think it's probably time to gear up and like increase my water intake or change the water one a little bit, something like that. And so I highly encourage people to jump into group coaching. There's so much information that you will get out of it. I recommend bringing a notebook to all of the sessions and taking lots of notes, asking lots of questions, and rewatching the videos, because it is the video coaching part is just packed with information. I also really recommend that you check in with your accountability buddy and sort of lift each other up throughout the experience, because there's lots of momentum, it's really exciting, and then it gets hard. And so stick with it and carry on, and your life will be better for it. Okay, take care.
So Emilia, she has this big book next to her bedside. And again, we live a wonderful life, so these aren't real problems again. But she has these tiny little hands. They're so cute. And she's a very small human and in comparison to me. And she has this huge book. And she immediately went from, how do you read in bed with these big books? This is like hard to hold up with the light and all this stuff. And we also, have light hygiene in the bedroom. We don't like to have big bright lights before bed because of your melatonin and biochemistry. But she wanted to create an invention the next morning. She was brainstorming potential solutions to this situation. And Emilia is the most innovative person I've ever met. Like, she will be frustrated and immediately invent something or makeshift something to make it work. Like our cat, Tauriel, anyone with cats knows they love the keyboard. It's warm, they stomp on it, they get your attention, and you end up sending some hateful message from your cat to some random person.
It was my cat, I swear.
Yeah, it was my cat, I promise. And so Emilia has this plastic thing over her MacBook over there to make sure that Tauriel can't type hateful messages to people anymore. Unless she asks in advance, only on Sundays. I'm kidding. But the point of frustration is innovation. That is the fucking point. Everyone right now, think of a couple things that piss you off. Okay, you can improve those. There's a new tool or a new strategy, or your partner could improve, or you could improve.
Yeah.
If I'm frustrated that this podcast is not as good as it could be, I can then express that to the production team. I can express that to you. I can express that to myself. And I can say, let's get better. And all innovation comes from frustration. However, some people complain just to complain, and they give complaining a bad name.
Yeah, not only that, but what we learned in that kind of mastermind that we had around this morning was the fact that a lot of people, so number one, right, for anyone that's listening to this podcast, ask yourself the question, when someone brings up a problem or a frustration, do you inherently go into how do I solve that mood, or like lean out and say like, that's your freaking problem? Because you and I are more people that will lean in and say like, how can we solve this? Let's get creative. Let's brainstorm a solution. Some people might not realize it, but they're the type of people that lean into the problem, but don't know how, nor do they have self-belief to actually create a solution. And so what might be happening there in your relationship is you might have a partner that experiences frustration, then expresses it, and the other partner then leans in, doesn't have high self-belief, personalizes that, and then kind of in a way slaps back, for lack of better words, that person that has the frustration. And over time, you learn, because it's not a pleasant experience, you learn to slowly suppress your frustration. Over time, that adds up, and all you have to share is gratitude. So that's kind of like becoming a whipped dog. Like, you don't actually experience the other element of life, and you're learning by conditioning in your relationship to only show the good. And that's just not a sustainable nor realistic expectation.
And now you're walking on eggshells. Yeah. And now you can't improve anything because you can't express. It's frustration into fascination into transformation. So something frustrates you, but here's the thing: this projector I adore. I'm so great. 95. And I said this to her. I said, 95% is gratitude. Thank you so much. Seriously, still the best gift I've ever gotten. And here's a list of things that I wish was better. And if you knew me as well as you did, which how could you, because I didn't express it, I don't like knockoff companies.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
I know what that means. I've worked for these companies, not knockoff companies, but a lot of companies. And the compound effect of technology, like, Apple has its brand for a reason. They don't mess around. And so I'm not surprised the projector broke because of the reasons that we've talked about.
Right.
But here's the thing. How easy would it have been for Emilia to say, wow, you're a really ungrateful partner? And then to start, how easy would it be for me to burn our relationship to the ground, for lack of better phrasing? And again, with you and I, it wouldn't. But
Yeah.
with
If
just
you're emotionally
complaining all the
immature.
time and attacking you and all that stuff, like that this
Like,
was
okay,
not
I'm never
that.
going to get you a gift again. Like,
Yeah,
blanket statements like
exactly.
that get said all the time.
I
And
know.
one of my second favorite parts about that morning too, babe, was when you and I
This
had
was
gone
in
our
the
separate
evening,
way.
and then the morning was the next day. So,
But we also
yeah.
talked about it in the morning
Yeah,
too.
fair.
And in the morning, you were doing your journal, I was doing my journal, and we were in separate places. And one of the things that you had shared across the house, and I was so grateful for this, for conscious couples that are listening, this is what I really want people to tune into. You had reflected on that. And you're like, you know what, babe? I actually really feel, insulted. I feel really insulted that you don't know me to this level. And it wasn't like an attacking, but you actually like unearthed that feeling that was underneath everything else, which was a byproduct of your past conditioning, that because of this conditioning around like not like having to suppress the frustrations again and again and again, you aren't actually able to be seen in our relationship. And I was so freaking grateful for that, because how many of us think that we know our partners and we're actively knowing them? My question is, are you knowing both the grateful part of your partner and the frustration, or are you just getting to know just the frustration or just the gratitude part?
Both the gratitude and the frustration are opportunities to learn your partner.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, how obvious is it that
Yeah.
So the projector I'm very grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
How obvious is it in hindsight that I would have liked like a Sony?
Yeah,
right? Isn't that clear now?
absolutely. Yeah,
but
yeah.
she didn't know about me those things.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting her to observe me. Like, my computer is world class. My Zen book is ace it. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
My
you're
toothpaste
expecting
is
and projecting
Yeah,
all of these things
exactly.
that with a woman who is as busy and
You're an
ambitious
early-
as I am, and as an early adopter, you're expecting that those considerations are taken in, and that's just not. I see the parts of you that want that, and I'm so eager to support that.
And we always joke and say gifts are just a way for people to explain to us how little they know us. And Emilia has been amazing. I mean, best gift giver ever. So she knows me better than anyone on planet Earth, honestly. However, your partner can only know you to the extent that you share you.
You share
And
all of you,
you.
including the not so pleasant parts that are uncomfortable to share when you feel like you're being ungrateful or when you're minimizing your experience. That's really big for you, right? Like, your partner needs to see that too.
And for those Debbie Downers out there, you need to express gratitude too.
1000%.
I've never met someone who isn't more on one side or the other. Emilia is much more on the gratitude. She's always expressing gratitude to me. And then to
Same
herself,
too.
it's only frustrations. I'm kidding.
It's true.
Because she knows she
it's
can
like,
handle it.
It's like a 1 to 99% ratio.
We're obviously.
But I've worked towards that. That's been a
I
ladder.
know. I'm obviously joking. You're grateful with yourself too. I really am being playful.
Depends on the day of my
I'm
cycle.
grateful we could be ourselves on this episode, and don't take anything 100%. All right, so
Yeah.
everyone I've ever met, everyone I coach, everyone I've ever been in a relationship with prior to you and you is either overly grateful and they're only expressing gratitude, or they're overly just complaining. Like, some people are negative Debbie Downers, negative town all the time.
Think of that
and
person that no matter
it's
what you do, no
exhausting.
matter where you go, they're always pointing out all the things that are wrong or they're frustrated with. It's
like,
without any solutions
I remember
presented.
in the literally in the past is, oh, how's your meal?
Doesn't have a fruity bib key.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't have as much avocado as I would have liked. Okay, are you grateful for food? You ungrateful person. But again, at the end of the day,
my mom, she always wants the truth. And I'm like, let me share with you what I do love,
Yeah.
and I'll share with
And-
you what is not great.
So this is the genius of the and. So again, one powerful tool that's changed our relationship is Emilia and I lately. excuse me, what's the gratitude with that? Can I have
like, would you like ketchup with that?
Yeah, would you like fries with that? So if you're going to give the burger, which is the gratitude metaphor, you also got to give the fries, which is some of the frustration.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I would pick fries for frustration because they're amazing.
Frustration fries. That's good.
Frustration fries.
I like it.
All right, so it's the and, the power of the and, the genius of the and. Now, from now on, whenever you share any frustration, you also need to either present a gratitude with it or a solution.
Yes.
Complaining just to complain is not helpful. It will hurt your relationship. It will hurt you. It will hurt your life. Do you have anything you want to add before we go?
The only thing that I would suggest is for conscious couples to, if you're going to express a frustration with a gratitude and leverage the power of the and, I would strongly encourage to be okay with how you two are collaborating for a solution, because some people feel like they have to bring up a solution before they bring up, like, because of their conditioning, before they actually express their frustration. That's not necessarily helpful. Some people never create a solution and never come to the table with that, and that's not helpful. I think this is where collaboration in the we is so freaking powerful, because if you don't have a full solution, I don't have a full solution, then we get to talk about it, and then we get to say, what are we hating in our life right now? What do we want better? And I think that brainstorming is what conscious couples actually deeply crave at the core.
So just as an example, to make all this practical, let's each express one gratitude and one frustration and then one potential solution.
Okay.
What's one thing? Everyone out there, you have things that have been bothering you unconsciously every day.
Mm-hmm.
You also have things that you're grateful for every day. You just don't necessarily bring them up.
So this is good. So let's go to, since are you inherently the frustration guy? Are you going to represent that? I mean, I'm inherently gratitude gal, so
okay,
I'll start with gratitude.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Oh, so cute. Okay, so something super simple that happened this morning. I'm super grateful that you played. It's snowing out right now, and it looks like a beautiful snow globe. And I'm super grateful that you took the opportunity when I asked Tucker, I said, you want to go outside and get a snowball? And he was so excited. He's like, yeah, let's go. And then he's like, wait, Mom, it's not as fun with just you. And he looks over to Dad, who's like prepping for book club. And he's like, Dad. And I was so grateful that you caught that bid, because that brought you to go do snowball with Atoka.
Mm-hmm.
And I was frustrated that you had to go back to book club and stuff, and that you couldn't do 2 rounds of snowball because Toka loved it. So did Tao.
And when he was done with his snowball after he ate it, he was like,
Yeah, he was so sad.
He was so sad.
So
it was gone so fast.
Yeah, part of me was so grateful to have that beautiful moment as a family, and another part of me was really sad and frustrated.
I half expected you to mention the deck. Our deck is needing some work.
Oh, no.
Okay,
no.
I'm grateful we didn't go there.
No.
That's my gratitude.
I'm also sad.
So what's the solution?
The solution is
No more
honestly,
10 a.m.s.
Yeah, I was just going to say
on Saturday morning.
10 a.m.s.
Yeah.
The reason why we have a 10 a.m. was because
Pivots
had to happen this week. First on you and then on me.
Okay.
And so I don't know if there's a full solution to that, but we're working on that. I think we can dialogue around how to get better on pivots and more realistic on pivots. I think that's the solution.
Okay. So that was a really good example. Just because I'm realizing the time and I do have to go, I'm going to postpone my gratitude, frustration, and solution. But these are everywhere.
Yes.
There's always something to be grateful for. There's always something that could be potentially better, aka frustrating. And then there's always a potential solution to improve stuff. Mm-hmm. There's very little that we can't improve if we try.
I agree.
Right? Okay, everyone. So if you want to do relationship talks coaching, we actually just got reached out to recently. Referral. Thank you to Bianca. Thank you. And essentially what this is if you want to make sure you're growing together, if you want to make sure you're building your goals and dreams together, if you feel like things have gotten stale or things have gotten boring or maybe it's a roller coaster and you're really good one week but not good the next, if you want some consistency in your life, that's what Emilia and I can promise you. Relationship talks coaching, we never miss. We have one couple we've been coaching for years and we never, ever miss. Every other week for years. And they are literally building their dreams together to such a wild extent, to the point where they're getting offered jobs that they never expected and all kinds of cool stuff. So it's not just going to help you in your relationship. It's really going to help you in yourself and in your life and with your goals and your career too. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say about that.
The link to book your free relationship talk session with us, which we host on Saturdays, is in the show notes. Additionally, with that link is your invitation to register for our next relationship talks event, which is how to be more courageous with your partner. That will be January 16th. And what we talked about today is going to be just a snip preview of how much that event is going to be a big one, because I know being courageous with your partner is actually so much more difficult in real time than anyone can ever put words to.
So conscious singles and couples out there listening, if you have a knockoff projector and you want to learn how to express your list,
bring your list.
Yeah, bring your list.
We'll do active frustration shares. See how you do.
I really am so grateful, though. Seriously, best present 5th year anniversary. It was literally
best present ever. And I hate it. I hate it. No,
2.5 months of wonderful. And let's be real, underneath all this, I'm just sad it broke.
I know. You are sad it broke.
I am so sad it broke.
But
it's working again for some reason. So I love the uncertainty of it. It keeps my life
so
interesting.
Much fun.
So great.
La, la, la.
But as always, we appreciate you. Thank you for listening. It's not about you or me. It's about the projector. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is alazarus88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.